a month from today, which is very sad, but also very heartwarming. I am kind of getting a little nostalgic, I guess because of, the holiday season just passed with Christmas and New Year's. And if you know anything about Japan, Christmas is not really a Japan thing. And so, kind of got nostalgic over that. But, so my last month of exchange, and probably going to be making a lot more videos this month. But I really kind of wanted to do a video today on kind of my exchange year overall, and how it's been, and about Japan, and just a bunch of little stuff I don't think I've ever said. So let's get down to it. I think one of the biggest things I've seen culture-wise from coming on this exchange is that, no matter what culture you belong to, you are human. And why I say this is because, yes, overall, Japan is a very nice society, it's a very sophisticated society, it is a very, strict kind of conformed society in many ways. It's a very modest society. But once you get past a level of tourist and you really become more in tune with the culture itself, you see that there are very different people in the society. And like other societies, you see the social structure and you see how different people act in that social structure. And I would say, as a good comparative, America and Japan, not very similar, but the people in the social structure sense are very similar. I would say how they act differently. Well, you say, but Americans are so stereotypically, not as nice as Japanese, or, different things along those lines. If you bring it down to the personal level, you see these people being nice, but, really, personally, they can be quite mean. You can see, because they're nice overall, what you say has a very big effect on what you actually mean. And so once you understand what they actually mean, what they're saying isn't very much different from what Americans or other cultures say. And being in Japan, I have experienced a lot of different cultures. I've seen exchange students and people from around the world. I am very pleased to say I am friends with a lot of people now from very different countries. And I think that almost helps me as a person become a better person myself, because you get to experience their culture as well. Another big thing about this exchange is, out of exchange, a lot of good comes out of it. But, exchange overall is very hard. It is a very strenuous year of exchange. I would have to say Japan is a very hard place to study abroad in, just because of social constrictions and biases towards foreigners in Japan. Very many foreigners that come to Japan are not very as respectable foreigners. And I'm not saying exchange students overall, but visitors, tourists, and so foreigners get a very bad rep in Japan, and that can be extremely hard to overcome. Also, this does not apply to all foreigners. Asian foreigners have it much rough than European foreigners, um, just because of different biases towards other Asians that, yes, Japanese do have. And so that is very hard on a couple of my friends I know. I'm not going to say it's towards everyone, but yes, there is that bias there. Also, there is a bias with the European foreigners as well. If you have blonde hair, blue eyes, you are guaranteed to be liked more in Japan usually. Something about looking the foreigner look. Like, there's a certain image they have in mind if you are coming from a certain country that they kind of want you to look like. And if you're not, you know, their views on you will change. And so, as unfortunate as that is, it is there. And so, I myself, I guess, have not noticed this as much personally, as more as like I can see it with a bunch of other friends and how Japanese will react with them. Also by how you dress as a foreigner, kind of dressing more modestly, you know, kind of almost as a Japanese, you know, they'll be kind of like, what are you doing? You know, kind of thing. Because they expect you to be big and fabulous and, you know, fancy and, you know, kind of bring that exotic lifestyle, you know, that's often associated with foreigners. They'll also, there's a bad stereotype for foreigners overall because a lot of foreigners who come to Japan aren't very culturally sensitive. And so it gives the rest of foreigners a very bad representation. I've seen, mostly in bigger cities, I'm in Nagoya, so it's the fourth largest city, but it's more, not necessarily remote, but not traveled as often to by tourists. Very touristy cities like Osaka, Tokyo, really big names, Kyoto for one. You'll get a lot of foreigners who are not very culturally sensitive to the Japanese culture. And as a whole, the Japanese culture is very modest. And so when you have foreigners coming in here, dressing very immodestly, you know, being very impolite, very loud spoken, it puts a damper on the rest of us foreigners, who are more in tune with the Japanese culture, just because, you know, not only do we have to be respectful, but we also have to try and make up for all the things that you're doing to make a better impression of our culture. And so there is a very, there's this very, they idolize foreigners, and they also very dislike foreigners at the same time. It's very hard to explain, but that's one reason it is very hard to study abroad in Japan. Another is it's a very strict society as far as kind of what's allowed, what's not allowed, kind of what's socially acceptable. I am a high school student in Japan, so that puts a lot more pressure for exchanging in Japan. You are expected to study very hard because as a student in Japan, students in Japan's only job really is to study. And so, you know, you have to have some sort of ambition like that to really get kind of respect from the Japanese society. Also, you know, as much as like eating habits go, if you have very bad eating habits, it's very looked down upon. That correlates with your weight, you know. They have a very idealistic size of weight in Japan. that can be very hard for some people. You know, as far as, what you wear, there's a very, kind of standard of what is okay and what's not okay. Yes, you always see a lot of these crazy things coming from Japan, but that's not really Japanese. Like, there's this part of the society where, yes, there is that from the society, but as a whole, it is not very normal, nor is it very socially acceptable in most cases. Like being really into anime, being an otaku, it's not very socially accepted. Though there are a larger number here in Japan of those people, it is not a very big majority, as people would like to admit, and so it's still not very socially acceptable. So, a lot of, things like this make it very hard to study in Japan as an exchange student. You know, I would say, among other things, sometimes, especially with host families, I know that's been some of the big things with different exchanges here, is, it's really hard to understand as a foreigner coming into Japan what people are actually saying to you. There is a level of read in between the lines. And so I know this is often talked about by foreigners from being in Japan, of how they'll say one thing but mean another. And so with living with people in Japan for a long period of time, you do have to understand that, yes, there is that. And I know that's really hard for people who are hosting for the first time. They'll still have that line, and they won't let exchange students know as much, and so it'll create a lot of tension. Also, I would say overall the Japanese are very imaginative, and so it is best to explain things in details and make sure they understand exactly what you're meaning. When left to their own devices and their own thinking, sometimes they can come up with completely different things from what is actually going on, and this also makes doing things in Japan very hard. Now, overall, yes, I would say I had a fantastic year in Japan. I feel like, yes, I came here and I did, kind of fulfill my need for coming here and accomplish my own goals that I kind of set on this exchange, for this exchange. And I am kind of ready to continue on with my journey, experience different things. I really, really loved my host family. I love my host school. I can't really say anything negative about either of those, nor the people who, the international students who I've become a friend with. Very, very nice people. I have had an amazing exchange year. Would I recommend Japan? I would say if you love the idea of coming to Japan, then come. It's one of those where it's very, if it's your thing, it's your thing. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. You have to have that drive. If you have that drive, you can make it in Japan. If you don't have that drive, it's going to be tougher. It's going to be tougher. And so I'm in the last leg of my race here. Hardest things, trying to do speeches in front of hundreds of people in a foreign language. Not the funnest thing in the world. But, now that it's over with, I can say I've grown in that strength. I will always say now, no matter what I do, that seems tough, but it doesn't seem tough as standing in front of hundreds of people trying to say something in a foreign language. And so, from this, I'm really happy with how I've progressed as a person, and as corny as that sounds, I'm really happy, and I hope that other exchange students in the future, as well as current ones, continue on their journey towards great things. I hope that you guys will be amazing foreigners in other countries and continue to, become better people. As a society, I think that the person is one of the most important elements. And so I say become the best person that you can be. And so I'm striving right now to become the best me I can be. And so on my month left, I'm going to do everything possible that I can possibly do. And when my month is over, I will cry and I will laugh and I will continue on my journey. So, till the next video, guys. Bye!